Breda Flood, I was born Breda Morrissey in June 1951 in Wexford General Hospital. At that time my parents lived in Battlestown, Ramsgrange. So they had 2 children in Wexford, and then they moved to Castlekelly, Gorn, County Kilkenny, and there were 4 more Morrissey children born. Both my parents were from St. Mullins, and very strong GAA background as well. So in a sense I was born into the GAA.
Right from an early start. And on that, what would be your earliest GAA memory then?
I think probably people coming to the house to listen to the radio, because there wasn't TV, and very few people got to actually travel to matches. And my father always went, but we were glued to the radio, and I remember people coming to the house to listen to the radio, or the wireless as it was called. And it was particularly important in our house because my uncle Mick Morrissey was a member of the Wexford hurling team, and he won All Ireland medals with Wexford in 1955, 56 and 60. So my most vivid memory was of just before he left Ireland to move to New York. He came to our house the Sunday night and he brought an All Ireland medal. And he gave it to me to hold in my hand, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen.
How did you come about getting involved in the GAA?
Well, I went to primary and secondary school in Goresbridge to the Brigidines, and we had a school camogie team, so I started playing camogie from first year, and we had a competition that was mainly between the Brigidine convents, which were all in the Diocese of Kildare and Leighlin. But we also played some other schools, and my first outing actually was to play a camogie match against Callan, and I was a sub, and it was just amazing to watch this player, Anne Carroll, on the field, and of course she went on to become very well known in camogie circles. Later on she won All Ireland with Tipperary and Kilkenny, and one of the first club All-Irelands as well. But I just was so enamoured of this wonderful woman playing camogie, and I think we all wanted to be like her. So my secondary school, yes, where Sister Mary Minahan, who was from Puckon in Tipperary, took charge of our team, and she had taught me in 4th class in primary school, and she really was an inspirational teacher. So the school really was where I think my interest in being involved for myself.
Yeah, how did you end up back in Wexford?
Well, I trained as a primary school teacher, and I started my teaching career in Glynn, St. Mullins, County Carlow. And while I was there, I met Breda Flood at a wedding, and I ended up marrying Brendan and moving down to Casheen in Wexford, and I started teaching in Owlert later that year.
What year is that?
That was 1972. So hurling was something that was part of school and school life. So I became principal in 1979 after Michael Bracken left, and I felt a responsibility to ensure that hurling was catered for in the school, and I had Breda Jacob as a member of staff, and Breda also was very interested in coaching. So Breda did her coaching courses in Wexford. I opted to go to St. Kieran's College in Kilkenny in 1980 to do the primary teacher's coaching course, and I have to say it was so good I went back the following year and did another course, and I think I met some of my heroes during that course, and I learned so much, and I still have great friends from that era.
From a coaching point of view there, when you see them lads that you've been part of their coaching pathway and that,
What's it feel like when you see them and they achieve the great heights? Like Liam there, obviously captain the Wexford team there and winning '96 and then going on and managing the team. What's that feel like as a coach and knowing you were part of that journey?
Very proud. You know, it's a very good feeling. I think, you know, that I suppose there was that you were a small part of that maybe along the way. I've been very lucky that I've had a lot of excellent pupils who were also good hurlers and went on to represent their club and their county with distinction. I got great satisfaction out of the first Tony Forrestal, the 1997 Tony Forrestal, when Keith Rossiter was captain, and they had, I think we'd 5 players from the club on that team, but that was, you know, that we had won Fela in Limerick, or sorry, we'd won Fela in Waterford that year as well, and that was the 4th year in succession that we'd been representing Wexford in Fela. We had won it in Limerick in '94. Michael Jacob was captain. So there were so many players that as I start naming names, I would leave people out, because quite a lot of our pupils did go on to play for Wexford, both hurling and camogie. And again, you know, the girls were magnificent also, and
the tree in the road, the girls there,
yes.
Ursula Jacob and the legs on it, that must give you great satisfaction as well to see from the camogie point of view.
Never tired of watching Ursula's goal in Croke Park, and Mary Lacey jumping for joy when she was presented with the O'Duffy Cup in Croke Park. Like, they were magic moments, and I feel privileged to have have known them and be still involved in the club, and to see some of these, and now they're children. I'm watching some of their children playing that, whose parents I would.
It's like the life circle coming again. Absolutely, now. Another bunch of them. Yeah. So Breda, it's 24 years since we won the last All Ireland. What's your memory of that? And having said that, do you think we're ever going to see them great days again?
My memories of 1996 are maybe somewhat different to everybody else's. The highlight of the year for me was the Leinster final win against Offaly. That was absolutely magic. It was brilliant, and the All Ireland was tinged with sadness for me, because my mother actually died that day. She was in hospital in Kilkenny, and she'd been not well all through that summer, and there was a crisis before every match. But all that week before the final, South East Radio was playing in her room, and we were looking forward to hoping, very hopeful that we would win. And so I was in Croke Park. I was sitting with my brother. He had a mobile phone. I didn't. None of us had mobile phones that time. But he got a phone call literally just as the ball was thrown in, that Mum had passed away. So the game, I couldn't do anything. I could just stay there where I was sitting and watch the match, because I had Mini Sevens ticket for the new Cusack stand, and I had given it to Brendan, and he had sat over there, so I had to go and find him afterwards. But so I had to just leave the stand as soon as the match finished, and I actually went to Larkin O'Rourke's office in Croke Park. I knew Larkin from GAA admin and handball and whatever, so I phoned my dad. He was at the hospital in Kilkenny, and the first thing Daddy said was, "We won't bury her till Wednesday." So my journey that evening, then, when I located my husband, we were in the middle of all the Limerick traffic heading down the Naas Road, and didn't get to Kilkenny till about 11 o'clock, and I stayed with my father that night. But her funeral on Wednesday was... there was a big mixture of GAA people from Kilkenny and Wexford, and people said, "Sorry for your trouble, but isn't it great about Wexford?" So I wasn't there in the school when the cup came, and there's a lot of things that happened that I didn't, I wasn't involved in. Would have been had I been there, because I was hurling officer. I was a member of the county management committee and secretary of the club. But you know, that's life. But how and ever, when the Wexford Camogie team won the All Ireland, and I savoured every single moment of it, and I travelled to Gorey, to Enniscorthy and to Wexford and Howlard for the homecomings, and joined in all the celebrations, and it was it was magic. And I said, I'm doing now what I didn't do in '96, but I hadn't ever felt that I could watch that match until about 2 weeks ago, and we watched it GAA now. So I had the idea in my head that Eamon Scallon got sent off after about 10 minutes. I think it was 33 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's to look back on it now, it's amazing, and I was very lucky to work closely with Liam Griffin, because there was a coaching committee that Mick Kinsella, Liam Griffin and I were involved in, with Dennis Cadigan and a couple of others, and so we had a lot of interaction during those years, and I think, you know, Liam Griffin did warn people that unless steps were taken, that, you know, it wouldn't just happen again anytime soon. So here we are 24 years later, and we got very, very close last year, and who knows what's around the corner. There's certainly a different GAA future ahead of us now.
The young players today coming up along, what would your advice be to them?
Look after your hurl. Make sure that your hurl is the right size and the right weight, and look after it. Make sure that you don't leave it in the boot of a car where it'll dry out, because it's only going to be as good as the care you take of it. So it's really important, and it's one of the things we always did with players, that we made sure that we oiled the hurls even in school, so they got in the habit of doing that, so that they kept the life in the wood.
So Breda, you started coaching back in the early 70s. You're still coaching now with different sports and that. If you had any advice to give coaches now, or you're after asking me about younger players, what would it be? What advice would you give me as a coach?
Never stop learning. You can learn from every situation, and you learn from the people that you come in contact with, and you never know it all, I think, and you can always upskill, you can always improve, and I think the current situation that we're in, there's an ideal opportunity, and I'm delighted to see that the GAA are providing opportunities for coaches to develop their own, develop their own skills and their own knowledge base, and I think maybe look more about what they are doing. You can learn from every sport. There are elements, and from sports people. I've read so many different sports books, and Paul O'Connell talked about trusting the process in his biography, and it's something it's part of, I think, what every player does, what every coach does. There is a process, and trust it. I trained as a swim teacher in 1997, 98, and it was an eye-opener for me to learn about how to prepare sessions in a different way. One of the most important things was giving feedback to swimmers. It's equally important for players that you're coaching, I think, to tell them what you see, and tell them how they can do it better.
Where would you go back to, or what memory would you take that you'd love to revisit again, or just see again one more time?
1981, it was the first underage club team that I was involved with. Johnny Murray and I were in charge of the Balloch under 14 team, and we won the Slaney hurling final in Belfield against the Rapparees, and beat them on their own turf, and went on to Galway to represent Wexford in the Féile. That was absolute magic, I think, and driving into New Inn and bonfires meeting us. We were just treated like royalty, and when they got us out in the hurling field, they got the better hand or the upper hand, but Féile was knockout in those days. But there are so many memories. I think over that weekend, it was an amazing GAA community, I think, and to be part of that. And I had the privilege of carrying the Wexford flag behind the Artane Boys Band in the parade, and the Féile parade went from St Mary's College in Galway all the way down along the prom in Salt Hill into Pearse Stadium.